today's topic is exploring the state of PD in education today, and it's sort of thinking about new directions for basically all of us. I think Jen and I certainly have had these conversations a lot, and I'm sure you all have as well, as how can we use new professional development models to really engage teachers, keep them excited about the profession, keep them excited to be learning alongside their students, recognizing them for their expertise, having them really be in systems where there's a lot of peer learning. I think some of the PD we've seen, certainly the last week when we were at Betsy, was teachers talking to each other and then saying that was the best PD. Giving teachers the space and the time to talk with one another. And so that's really what we're going to talk about today. Different models that Jen and I are experimenting with some tools on this end. And again, please in the chat, let us know sort of what kind of models have been super exciting for you and what kind of learning experiences have been useful for you. So I'm just going to introduce myself. Let's see, how would I describe myself? I'm the director of research. That's one of the hats I wear. I've been thinking about sort of instructional design around professional development for a long time. I've been doing education technology research since the internet, I hate to admit, and have been at Participate for 6 years. Jen?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Julie. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jennifer Williams. I am the Director of Education Strategy here at Participate, and we are so grateful for Amber and her team at ICE welcoming to be here with you all this evening. A lot of times when I would do online learning with my classrooms of students, we used our first opportunity getting to know each other, and we called that a virtual handshake. So a greeting, get to know you, and today Julie and I wanted to offer that to you all as well. So we've been able to, as you come in, see your names and talk to a few of you, but we'd love to have you introduce yourself too throughout this hour using hashtag #StickWithParticipate. And so you can share on Twitter, you can share on Instagram, Facebook, whatever social media you're using. And then also later on in our session, we're going to be able to show you a way you can use Participate to curate that chat experience and learn together within learning communities like these. So thank you so much for being here. Before we jump in, we'd like to give you a moment. We want to kind of walk the talk, and so we'd love to be able to share tonight, but we also want you to have a collaborative experience and an experiential one as well. So if you have some Post-it notes and a piece of paper, please grab those now, and you'll find out soon why as we go through. So Post-it notes and a piece of paper, and you will be all set, and we'll keep going.
And again, remember to use the chat, so that's virtual handshake, and ask any questions that you may have.
If Rob is going to have his surgery.
Sounds like Julie's taking care of some of our questions on that end. Is everyone in on that you see, Julie, on your end? I don't have the chat feature on my shared screen.
Okay, yeah, I'm running the chat. Right now, everyone's quiet on the chat, ready to go.
Good.
I did put the hashtag in the chat. So again, we use Twitter, and we can back channel there as well as the chat. Whatever people prefer.
Perfect. So our essential question for tonight is going to be this: how might we? On one of your Post-it notes, if you could just up in the left-hand corner, write the acronym HMW. And as we're going along tonight, no matter what your role is in education, if you're part of an organization, such as friends that are here from ICE, or if you're a classroom teacher, if you work at an admin level, whatever your role is, we'd like you to start considering these how might we questions as we go along. So feel free to write those down. As we conclude later on, we're going to give you the opportunity to share those questions that come up in your mind on how we can take professional development and change both teacher identity and also impact student learning. So that's our Post-it note first exercise. We're going to walk you through a couple as we go. So our objectives. So over the next 60 minutes, we're going to talk about several things. First of all, we're going to be diving into what we call this participatory learning movement that really is revolutionizing what we see in PD. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the shift in the role of teacher. So what does it mean to be a teacher today in 2018? And how can we use PDs to support the individual needs and the developing needs of these teachers? And then for the second half of our hour, we're going to take a deep dive into the Participate PD ecosystem. I know a lot of people in our PLN, a lot of people that I see that have joined in tonight's session have some familiarity with Participate. We want to show you some of the fun things we've been working on with schools and districts around the country.
And Jen, I'm just going to interrupt.
Yes,
and
please
so,
do.
Folks joining in, if you can mute your mic, I'm not sure who, it would be really helpful to hear Jen and each other. Again, if you're talking, please mute your mic.
Thank you.
Not sure who it is.
Thank you for saying that, because I'm not hearing anything because of the background noise, so thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I don't have the universal mute available, but yeah, whoever is, just make sure if you're not either trying to ask a question or raise your hand or suggest something, just mute your mic. We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Jen. Sorry about that.
Perfect. No, that's great. So as Julie and I were preparing, you know, we kind of took a step back and looked at how we got to these roles, this passion of ours for professional learning and professional growth, and really just learning in general for teachers today. So for me, my Learn Without Limits story really goes back to when I graduated college. I was a new teacher. I got my first classroom at Walsingham Elementary. Really wasn't quite sure what I was doing, but jumped in. And so now, you know, I see when I look at my current university students where I'm at St. Leo University, I view in them what I remember feeling at that time. So it was armed with tons of information and knowledge and preparation, and feeling very prepared in certain regards. But those moments of professional preparation, I felt like very much stopped after I had my first job. So it was kind of upon me to have to seek out those professional learning experiences. So trying to find ways to do that, then moving to other schools, and realizing that really education was part of everything for me. Here, a picture of my great-grandmother. She was a high school English and Latin teacher, and she could not have known at the time, but where she taught was actually the high school where I ended up graduating from. So I started to have this development of what it meant to be a teacher, what it meant to be a student in those early years. So what happened when I had those first early classrooms, seeking out learning opportunities, trying to absorb as much as I possibly could, and going out and thinking, for me, this was the coolest job around. And so I had this natural intersection of the art and science of learning. As a teacher, I could be nimble with my experiences, coming in from out of high school thinking, well, maybe I'll be a physician, or maybe I will go into the sciences. So as a teacher, you're able to do all of these things. And what I soon found was that though I thought it was the coolest job around, a lot of others kind of almost patted me on the head like, isn't that cute? She's just a teacher. So this concept of teacher identity started to build within me, and it's something that I really focus on now. This shift that we're seeing developing from this participatory learning movement, shaping teacher identity, shaping how teachers are acting and practicing in our schools, and seeing the power in what that looks like. So we start to notice what's happening in PD. So we see things, learning is social, learning is flexible. Teachers are coming on for Twitter chats and taking Saturdays to go to ed camps. And they're part of this grassroots movement to empower themselves with new learning. And we're starting to see what has been happening in classrooms for probably the past 5 years, where we're seeing reimagined learning spaces. We're seeing flexibility. We talk about things like student choice and student voice, but how are we seeing that in PD? And sometimes, I mean, Julie and I just came from presenting at a large conference, and we talk about these great things like micro-credentials and digital badges, but what we find is we're standing in front of a room with rows of tables and chairs. So then we're kind of put in this, this situation where are we able to truly bring this collaborative type of PD to these settings. So this is of great interest to us at Participate and something we're working with schools and districts on currently. So then I kind of, I moved forward many years and moved from an early teacher kind of seeking out these opportunities to then a school administrator. So as a principal, walking into a role where we had many resources available for our teachers. We were able to send them to conferences. We were able to support them in those ways. But what we had hoped would happen, we had several teachers raising their hand saying, yes, I'm ready to go. This is the learning experience for me. But it was typically those same teachers. So maybe a handful of 5 that would be ready and able to go with hopes that they would bring back that new knowledge. So quickly I started seeing we had both an issue with access. So only a select few able to have these incredible learning opportunities. And then an issue of impact. So how are we able to take that new learning, bring it back to our classrooms, and have that translate into student growth? So this is part of everything we're doing. We're looking at how can we make PD more equitable and accessible for all. And how are we doing that? So we start to take these different activities, these different components of PD. So like we were speaking on before, ed camps and Twitter chats and online courses, these highly social, highly relevant, highly job-embedded activities, and combine those with formal PD. So we talk about conferences and on-site PD, and merging those together and to one combined space. And so districts that we're talking to in schools saying, have a recognition of these types of activities. And yes, we see ed camps are happening and our teachers are going out and having these great learning experiences and networking. However, everything is quite disconnected. So what we're looking to do is really offer what we call the glue that's able to then bring together all of these into one uniform experience. So we're going to talk about that with you today, talk about how we're using micro-credentials and badges to recognize those learning experiences and support teachers at scale. So every teacher having access, every teacher having opportunity to participate in there and really guide their own learning. All right, so you have your sticky notes. We're going to talk next about where we are now and where we are going. And so we'd like for you to do go into this activity with us and think about if you were to personify what PD is. So if you picture PD as a person, and this person of your traditional PD, what does that person look like? What are the characteristics of that person for that traditional PD? So write some of those ideas down on your Post-it notes. And as you do that, I can share, we recently did this at a conference, and these are some of the ideas and descriptions of what was shared. So we have heard people describing traditional PD as disconnected to their practice, boring, uninteresting, one size fits all, we often hear. Also, expert, like I've heard the word expert and expertise. So it's this, not all bad. There's a lot of good that's coming from it too. You see here on that upper right hand corner, post-it, knowledgeable, tries to please all. And interesting in the center, an old man sitting in an armchair smoking a cigar. So this person took it the activity quite literally. And so we look at these descriptions of that person if we were to think of PD, traditional PD, and is that something that we're looking to build? So next we want to think of PD, your ultimate PD. So what would that person look like? The PD that you hope for, the PD that you get up on Saturday mornings to go to when it's not required, the PD that occurs in Twitter chats and that you're drawn to with online courses. What are those descriptions, and how do those words contrast with the ones from traditional PD?
And again, please share your ideas. You can share them in the chat, and you can also share them on Twitter.
Yes, so please share those too. And Julie's watching.
I am watching.
So we were recently at a conference called Shifting EDU, and we asked this question of our group of educators on what that ideal PD looks like. And a friend, James Dean, he does these great things with visual mapping, and so he used this map to kind of curate the ideas that were shared. So when we talk about ideal PD, descriptions that we've heard from others include things like bite-sized. So it's digestible. It's something where you feel like I can do this, and I can do this on my timeline. Personalized, engaging, self-selected. So you have choice in your PD. So these are those ideas and the concepts that we are looking to as we're building out learning experiences for our teachers. And so we're excited to share those with you guys today. Before we go into that, though, I'm going to pass it over to Julie, and she's going to share some of these exciting things we have going now and talk to you a little bit about what we're finding as we're exploring this space with things like badges and micro-credentials.
And Jen, since we're doing so well with you sharing your screen, feel free to pace my talking with
Perfect. Yep, got it.
I'm not going to so I think Jen did a really, as always, a great job sort of talking about kind of the models of PD that we want to see. And I see Kim on Twitter saying, yes, how do we make this more equitable, especially for teachers that may be in really challenging environments where even kids are not having the freedom to really investigate. So if kids are stuck with scripted curriculum, and I think we're seeing that a lot of teachers are also having those challenges, where we want teachers to experience what we want kids to experience. How do you have open learning environments for teachers if you're having them for students? So I think where we are now is just a reminder, class. I love hearing all the voices so much, but if you can all mute if you're not asking a question or talking, that would be great. Sorry. So I think where we are now is the best way to probably characterize it is all over the map. So I think you can come into systems where we've seen, and Jen and I have seen, where districts are incredibly innovative. They are looking at they're looking at ed camps. They're looking at online courses. They're doing digital badging. They're allowing teachers to drive their own learning, to really understand that where their kids are, and then build their expertise depending on that. So whether it's ESL or it's math or whether it's literacy, or we're doing a lot of work around the sustainable development goals, and we will share those with you as well. The power only comes if we really respect teachers' expertise and their knowledge. And I think where we are now is, can we think in terms of trust? How much do we trust our teachers to be professional, to provide them with expert content when they need it, to coach them in terms of when they need extra support. So if they're looking at data, looking at their progress, how do we sort of think about that as a way of a partnership between administrators and teachers as partners, as opposed to sitting down with teachers in more of a an accountability environment, right? And I think a lot of teachers sort of feel that, where they want to experiment, they want to invent new things, they want to co-learn with their students, but they're feeling they're afraid to fail. And I think we've all heard this in a lot of workshops or a lot of talks. We're really reading a lot of articles about how we need to be, open to failing. But I don't think a lot of teachers and students are in school systems where that's okay. So I think what this slide is saying, state and school systems do have a unique opportunity, but they have to be pretty bold, because we've been in an accountability environment for many years. And in order to do the PD that's open, that really will support inquiry in the classroom, we've got to take some bold steps in a lot of our classrooms, and I think we can all agree with that. And I like what Shannon is saying in the chat, the infrastructures for sustainability are so important, and I think there is no question about that. I'm sure we all have been in a situation where we've had a really innovative leader, innovative teachers, and then they move on. And the sustainability in that system does not happen. So how do you really put innovation in the DNA of that system? So what Jen is sort of showing, and again, Jen, one of the things that we did years ago at Participate was understanding that PD happens all the time. It does not happen in workshops only after school. It does not happen in week-long workshops in the summer. Those are great. But I am a big believer in action research, and that's where a lot of this theory of action came, is if you're investigating ideas, if something comes in this conversation today, how can you take it to your classroom? How can you experiment with that? And how does that turn into professional learning? And then that gets acknowledged by the school district. And I think that's the most important thing to think about. So if you're doing an ed camp and you have a big idea, we want you to try that out in the classroom. We want you to reflect on that. And then we're going to give you a credential, a micro-credential, based on the reflection and based on your experimentation and based on you demonstrating, showing student learning evidences and describing those. And that becomes PD, because it's basically taking your classroom like a lab, right? So imagine you try out a new idea that you've seen somewhere, and then you're going to say, all right, let me try it in my classroom. All right, who did it work for? Who didn't it work for? Because I think if we get teachers open to failing in a particular way, right? Think as a designer, right? All of Silicon Valley works this way, right? Let's do iterations. So let me see something that I collaborate with a peer, I try it out in my classroom. If it doesn't work, I think about why it didn't work. Not get beaten over the head, but think about why it didn't work. So where we try to work with our partners is PD has to be sustained, right? You can't just do a big workshop on setting up a makerspace in your school and do that in 2 hours. This has got to be multiple cycles of presentation, right? Intensive is also a very important part of any PD program. So that week-long workshop, right? That's intensive, but then you have those cycles of coaching, online PD, so that you can keep practicing, right? It's this idea of being practicing. The third one I know is super close to Jen's heart, very close to my heart, collaborative. Now, not everybody is super collaborative, but we really believe teachers learn the most from other teachers, with some expert support when needed. But again, teachers need time to talk to each other. And I certainly know that we saw that at the conference, that just given the opportunity to just be in the same room, ideas are flying all over the place. And we need teachers to have that space ongoing, not just when they're lucky enough to go to a conference. And I think, again, that's where the equity piece comes in. Not every teacher can go fly off to a conference. So how can we have equitable spaces where teachers can collaborate? And I think I mentioned the sort of job embedded piece, which is when you're working in your classroom and you're thinking and reflecting and you're doing action research, that counts as PD. And we've worked with school systems to make sure that that counts. So that, again, that experimentation, I really, really recommend when you're in your schools thinking about this, so that you are experimenting, you're talking to your colleagues, you're thinking about which students are learning, who's struggling, and why is that happening. And again, the classroom focused. I think a lot of the most successful PDs that we've seen is, what are the sort of things that you really want to try out in the classroom? How can you move from a teacher-centered approach or teacher-driven to student-driven? What are those practical tips that get you okay with letting your student drive the learning? We're working really, really close with teachers to think about that. And I love this. I mean, Jen came up with this slide today, and I think this is probably, to me, the key of it all, which is really, it is your profession. It is your job. And I totally understand the constraints that some teachers are in their school, but the professional journey is yours. And there's so many tools out there. We're always there to sort of coach along. But the idea is to really go deep into your practice. Really think about, where am I struggling? Is it in math? What is it about that? Is it some tech tools? Where can I go deep? How can I use Twitter and other amazing tools to build out PLNs, your professional learning network, so that you can get the support? This is a perfect example. ICE is a great organization to kind of bring teachers together to really share that learning. And how can you use these kinds of associations to make sure that you're sort of going deep, and also that you're the one that's in charge of that professional journey? You know what you need. You know what your kids need. You know what your schools are struggling with. No one's better than teachers to know what they need. And too often, that control is taken away from them. And they're just sitting and crossing the dots and the I's, and they lose their engagement, and they're just in there to clock hours. We've got to move the system away from that, and teachers sort of reactivated in the profession. So I'm going to pass it back to Jen right now, and then we'll go through some of these tools. And again, I'm sure, as Jen is going to tell you, most of these are open, free to use. Please come in to participate, to investigate, and we'll go through the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. So a couple of things we're going to be highlighting tonight. We have some spaces within our Participate platform that we're excited to show you. We're going to be talking about chats. So earlier we were talking about our Stick with Participate hashtag that you could be sharing on in spaces like Twitter and Instagram. We're going to show you a way that you can use those hashtags for a conversation with colleagues from around the world in our Participate chats. We're also going to walk through collections. So we talk about open educational resources, so OERs. So these are curated collections of resources around specific topics that are near and dear to educators' hearts. We're going to walk through some courses and how we view course structures, micro-credentialing, and badging at Participate. And then we're excited to have you meet portals as we are starting to kick those off at conferences, and we'll be at ICE coming up in a few weeks, and we'll be able to show you those there too. So we're excited to kind of walk you all through those. But before we go there, head back to your supplies, and we'd like you to take out that piece of paper and structure 4 Post-it notes on that paper in this way. So if you put 4 on, and as we walk through these 4 different areas, we want you to do 2 things. If you, and a lot of the teachers that we've worked with, when we have this kind of backward design where we say, what is the end goal? So if you think about where you're at right now, and maybe we won't think school like 1 full year, but just think 1 semester. Like, what is one goal you are hoping to reach by the end of this school year? So this spring, what are you hoping to do? So if you want to focus in on one area of PD, and then as you go through, we've been doing some really interesting research and exploration around this idea of experiences. So experiential learning for teachers, and our instructional design team has been recently doing some neat work. And what we've come from that learning is, how do we want teachers after PD or after learning to feel? What is that on fire moment where they can't wait to get back into their classrooms to try out some of these new ideas? And a lot of times in traditional PD approaches, it's really focusing on that think. So what do you think about these things? How are you thinking you can incorporate those? So though that is so important, we also want to make sure we're focusing on that feel. So those on fire emotions that get you excited, and then therefore can get your students excited. So as we go through chats, collections, courses, portals, jot down notes on things that you may, according to that one PD goal, things you think you could use those different spaces for, and how those are going to make you think and how those are going to make you feel. Or if you're an administrator, think about your faculty or your teachers in that same type of experience. So first area we're going to jump into is chats, and I'm going to let Julie take it away from there.
So I can see that many of you are active on Twitter because I'm watching the Stick with Participate hashtag feed and loving the conversation there. But we have one of Participate's areas of focus are global schools. So we work with whole schools, mostly here in North Carolina, schools that are really interested in taking that leap of doing global education, doing these learning experiences, doing authentic learning around global challenges, using technology and so on. A lot of these teachers have never seen Twitter. All they hear about is things that scare them, right? That it will bring controversy into the classroom, that parents will be worried. And so the one thing that's amazing about the Participate chats is that it's really great for the newbies in particular. So it, first of all, categorizes. So what you can see on the screen here is there are hashtags in buckets. So if you're interested in global, if you're an elementary school teacher, if you're secondary, if you're interested more in slow chats or world languages, you can click into these buckets and find a chat for you. And the other thing about Participate Chats is that it has archives, and so you'll be able to see past chats. You can do that. You know, I've looked at online learning for a long time, and, you know, sometimes you have to be a voyeur before you're ready to jump in. So the Participate Chats is almost like a differentiated environment for those that are like super gung-ho already using Twitter to build their PLN and extend their PLN, and teachers that are really new to it and just want to get a sense of what it's about. But once they dive into these different, so here's Jen is showing the view from Collaborative PD. So what's wonderful is you can join this chat. You can see a schedule of upcoming chats. You can put those into your calendar so you have a reminder. And then you can see those past chats. So it's like, all right, let's see what Jen was up to on December 20th. Looks like there was a lot of really cool activity. There was 275 tweets on there. I want to see what they were talking about. We've been working with a lot of PD providers as well as even university faculty that are starting to use these tools in their university classroom. And these transcripts are a really good way to get visibility into at PD. So if you're a teacher or you're an administrator and you want Twitter chats to be part of your PD, what you're providing, this is a great way to sort of have visibility and say, okay, what was that conversation like? What did our teachers say? What were the resources shared? What was the instructional practice that we talked about? And this is a really great tool that, again, kind of bottles up the excitement of Twitter and makes it really usable when you're doing it as part of an intentional PD practice. And we were just having, we're going to be doing a lot of research around the use of the hashtag in educated chats. It's pretty extraordinary, a lot of the conversation about how negative social media is for discourse, but it's completely opposite for educators. Educators have taken Twitter and run with it. These are extraordinary conversations of teacher-to-teacher PD. You can see all of the resources that are also shared. And the other thing that the chats do is if you've been involved in live chats, they can sometimes feel chaotic. What we have is a way of splitting out the question and answers so that you can clearly see, okay, what is the moderator asking? And then a way for you to jump in. You can see it and it's all in a row. Because sometimes, again, involved in some of these really active chats, you're like, wait a minute, am I supposed to answer question 5 or question 1? Where am I? And so Participate Chats does a nice job of sort of having some coherence and making it doable. So again, please check these out. And then I want Jen to talk about collections.
All right, so next up, collections, one of my favorite spaces. So within Participate, when you join on Participate, you have the functionality to create collections of your own. So what collections are? Curated collections of resources, and you can go in. These are spaces for you to work independently. So you can create private collections of resources. Maybe you're working on a grant proposal and you want to share or save research there. So you can save things like web links, PDFs, video, and these spaces also can become collaborative. So you'll see here, I'll kind of walk you through what our, how you would build one of your collections. So you have a lot of Flexibility on if you want to, when you want to change titles, add descriptions, you can see there's spaces for tagging. And then when you click add resources, it's as simple as clicking and dropping here, and it will then populate those collections with those. My favorite part of the collections is collaborations. So what you can do is, if Julie and I are working on a collection, or if we're working on a project, and we want to start saving research or saving resources, what we can do then is I can create that collection, I can invite Julie in, and then we can then share together. So these are great for spaces like groups of PLCs, teaching teams. We have a lot of teachers, both in our Participate network and then our PLN network, where teachers are working many, many miles apart. So they may not be working in the same school, in the same district, in the same country. So they're able to go on together and create. You can also have discussion, private discussion with your collaborators right within the collection space. So maybe if someone shares a resource and they're like, make sure you check out page 2 or that awesome infographic as you're going along. So a lot of times what we're also seeing is as we're going to go through our courses, we're seeking out ways to bring in all levels of collaboration. So within our courses, as Julie's going to share, we have the evidence of learning is through sometimes things like creating collections of resources or participating in a chat and then sharing those in those checkpoint spaces. So I'll let Julie kind of dive in and share what we're looking at with our Participate courses.
So actually, so many of the comments, and Jen, I don't know if you can see some of the chat, but
I can't. Since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So this is a perfect lead into the courses, and I know we're sort of doing the lecturing that we're saying we don't want to do, but the main thing is these comments in the chat about we want more hands-on, we want more interactivity in PD. I made a comment like no one wants to be lectured about inquiry, right? It doesn't really work. If you're standing and lecturing, and Jen mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, we're standing effectively in front of rows, right? So what we're trying to do in the online course is how do we make this as interactive as possible? How do we get teachers engaging with new tools? And so that is how we pretty much structure almost all of our courses, and with our partners and districts that are also making courses to share with their teachers is how do you use an inquiry model, asking questions, getting people to know each other, using the tools both outside of the platform, inside the platform. How do we embed chats? So we've embedded chats, we've embedded collections, which you just saw, and most importantly, we really focus on and elevate teacher reflection. I'm sure you can tell right now it's very close to my heart. I think when teachers are thinking about their practice, it makes them better teachers. The moment that you're thinking about what you're doing, right? It's that metacognition that we want to see in our students. So all along the way in these courses, we're really, really highlighting reflection. What works? What didn't work? Think about those things. How can you connect better with your students? Where are you not connecting with your students? What resource and tool is on this course that spoke to you? And what are you going to share with other teachers, and what are you going to share in your classroom? And then you can see some tools in there right now, which is join the discussion. So again, you're kind of pacing through these courses on your phone. These are asynchronous, but there's lots of opportunities for places for you to interact. The most important piece that we've introduced here is peer mentoring and peer review. So when you submit your work for a micro-credential, that is first going to a peer. And I know one of our star peer mentors is on this webinar, Kim Murphy, who's been an extraordinary coach for our teachers. So she's helping along the way in a more formative process. So as opposed to somebody sitting on high and like seeing your work, we have peers in there using rubrics that are nationally recognized, looking at the work, connected to the objectives in the course and saying, okay, why don't you, this looks great, how about you try these ideas? Have you thought about this? I love what you did here with your students, how about you go deeper here? And we have had extraordinary results really with that peer piece, and that's the essential component of our badging system. And so what Jen is showing now are these badges, and for me, the most important thing to know about micro-credentials or open badges is that these are powerful portfolios, right? So I'm a firm believer in portfolio assessment, and so that's what those badges do. Every time you click in them, you'll see evidence, you'll see the learning that teachers did in order to get that learning. You'll also be able to see the conversation that teacher had with their peer mentor if they'd like to share, and that gets a richer conversation with administrators, faculty, and also other peers in terms of showing what they've done in their PD. It just makes it all true. All right, Jen, this is a cool new thing. We're so excited.
Yeah, this is so we're super excited about this. So now we just kind of, we're talking about our courses and to share with you on how do we get our courses. So we have a number of different ways. So we have at Participate, we have an Equitable, the instructional design team. They're creating courses, creating content, and so we have those courses available. We also have courses that are created by the schools and districts that we're partnering with. So Brad Spearson, who is our Director of Sales and Marketing for our team, he often says with schools he's worked with, they've talked about going from binder to blended. So some of our schools are looking to take what they've done, sometimes mandated PD, sometimes around initiatives according to their schools and districts, and they're putting them into online courses. So those are for their specific teachers. But then now what we've just launched as of just 1 week ago, we have Participate Authors. So Participate Authors, we have some extraordinary educators, and they are experts in their craft. So sharing on things such as educational technology, best practices in instruction. We have some new courses that just came out around OER and topics there. So these authors that typically are going out and on-site doing PD, traveling to schools and districts, traveling to conferences, what they've done now is take that learning, true to our mission at Participate, to make it accessible for all. And so now these courses are available on our Participate Authors page and in our marketplace. So these are coming out, we're doing about 2 per month as we're working with these authors, and they're creating these courses. Some are synchronous and have a component where it's every week they're meeting, and a lot are asynchronous. So you can really jump in and take them 24/7, whenever works for your schedule, topics that are interesting to you. And so we have our authors, and then we've partnered with different organizations. So like SEMA, National Speech and Debate Association. So lots of really cool things happening there that we are really proud of and excited to share more over the course of 2018. The last area we want to highlight is what we call Participate Portals. So Participate Portals, these are online learning spaces. So we kind of refer to them as ecosystems for learning communities. So these could be spaces for schools, districts, organizations. What you see here, this is our collaborative portal. And so a lot of you here I've seen have been part of our collaborative PD chat. So every third Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, we gather together on Twitter and we have conversations about participatory professional development. So every month our topic varies. And so when we started this chat a year and a half ago, we didn't realize then that what we were creating was this community of educators that were also interested in this topic. So what's evolved now is this portal. So we have portals. This is one we wanted to show you, but a lot of the things you're going to see are consistent across all of them. We're going to have levels of communication, collaboration, cooperation at every point you'll see here. This is our homepage. We have under the Learn tab, this is where we would have courses. Julie talked about the Sustainable Development Goals, which we're committed to. We have a Sustainable Development Goals, Global Goals portal, where we have courses that are released every month, and we have collections of resources, we have chats. So here with our collaborative PD portal, we have TCEA we're going to be at next week, and then at the end of February, we're going to be at ICE. So we're going to be able to create conversations around those topics here under Learn. Resources. So this portal, this community, is for people interested in collaborative PD. So here we are able to curate those collections of resources, share blog posts, web pages, collections, and that's where those resources can be available to all of our, what you see here, community members. So we have, I think, over 100 now community members here under Collaborate. And so what's neat is any of those community members we can send messages to. If we click on them, we can learn more about them. So Amy here, I've never met Amy, but I can go on, I can see she's a K-5 instructional resource teacher. I could send her a message if I wanted to reach out and have a conversation with her. She's interested in literacy, as am I. I love conversations around this topic. And so I could go in and see the collections she's created, badges that she's earned. So I know she's done work with SDGs as well. So I can look at those badges, look at those courses, and then learn from her. So we start to have this, this level of collaboration even within the portal at that point. Before we take questions, we wanted to give you some action points. We always want to end with some ideas for you to go into tonight, tomorrow, and when you're ready as you get back to your classrooms. So the first thing we would recommend is create your Participate bio. What you just saw with Amy, if her bio, her profile was empty, we wouldn't know that she works with students in grades K through 5. We wouldn't know that she's interested in things like literacy and sustainable development. So add that, add your picture. We're finding really that is so critical as people are moving forward and going through portals and courses. Next, join the Collaborative PD portal. So we just showed you that. You can join at the link go.participate.com/collaborative-PD-portal. That's a long one. And we'll share that out within the chat box and on Twitter as well. Once you join into that portal, then you'll be able to see all of these resources that we shared here. And most importantly, amplify your story. So join a chat, create a collection. We'd love to hear from you. Part of our core values here at Participate is teacher feedback. So what we're building and designing is all built around the needs of teachers. So, I mean, what do you think, Julie? Daily, we're having conversations with teachers from around the country and definitely the world, and being able to hear what are their needs, what are they hoping to find in PD, and how can we work together to build all of that.